Alright, out in the garage, I thought I would load up the RAM board. I'll give that a try next. Might be a little noisy out here. It's supposed to reach 103 today, and I've got the air conditioner on in the garage. That was my present to myself last year, was to buy a little portable air conditioning unit so I could survive out here. So yeah, let's get this loaded up and pop it in the oven, which is probably a stupid thing to do in 103 degree weather, but won't be on very long. Alright, here's the board. Trying out my macro on my camera here, so I think it's pretty close. I thought I'd show you what kind of solder paste I use. This is leaded solder. I have some lead-free solder here also. Let's see if I can find that on my highly organized desk here. Alright. So I do have this stuff. I think you can read the part number there. SMD 291 SNL. So this is a solder-free paste. And I have used that before. It's okay. I do prefer the leaded stuff. This is a Kester EP256. I just think it works better. I'm not scared of lead solder for the type of work that I do. So that's what I've got. And I don't remember what it was, like $15 for a syringe, which lasts quite a while. And I think you get some different tips with it, if I remember. I don't remember. Sorry I got interrupted, but this is what we'll be using. And usually less is better. Don't try to use too much of it. There's kind of a balance between not enough and too much, so you just need to experiment with that. So it's hard for me to do this through the microscope and video it at the same time, so I'll go ahead and apply the solder paste. Before I apply the solder paste, I use alcohol to clean the board, and that's just to get any oils. If I've been handling it, the oils from my hand can get onto the pads. So I always take some denatured alcohol, or I've actually got some reagent grade alcohol. I'll put that on here and clean that off. Put on the solder paste, and I'll show you what that looks like before I put on the parts. Alright, so I've got the solder paste on there now. Hopefully you can see that. And it's just a little bit, like I said, a little bit is all you need. And go from there. Let me see if I can get you a little bit closer. Alright. So if you haven't played with macro photography before, you can get extension rings that move your lens a little bit farther away from the camera. And I'm using about a 10mm extension right now, and that allows me to get it nice and close, so you can have a really good view here of the solder paste, as long as it stays focused. There we go. So you can see there's just kind of a line of solder down the pads, and so if I can show you some, here's a couple capacitors, just a little blob for the capacitors. So let's go ahead and mount some parts. Okay, let me see if I can do this on camera. It might be a little bit tricky, but I'm just grabbing the part with some tweezers and dropped it. So no, it's not going to work. I'm going to do it under the stereo microscope so I don't screw things up. Okay, so lesson learned. Use a stereo microscope. It's much easier. Having that depth of field in the stereo microscope is very, very helpful. When you're looking at a two-dimensional object like through a camera, you really can't tell what distance you are away, so it's very difficult to place things. So invest in a stereo microscope if you're going to do this. And yeah, there we go. So just place that down. Put the rest of the parts on and show you after that. I have all the parts, some capacitors, the latch, the RAM, and an inverter, another capacitor. So all of the surface mount parts are on. So we can fire up the oven and stick them in. So the oven is following its profile. You can see the bottom trace there is the actual temperature, and the dotted one is the profile. So it's coming up, trying to reach the profile, and once it reaches the profile, then it'll follow it, and everything should be fine. While waiting for the oven, I thought I'd show you my microscope. Probably one of the most probably one of the best stereo microscopes you can get. You can find them. It's a Wild microscope, W-I-L-D. Here in the back. Switzerland. These are extremely good microscopes. I was very lucky to find this one. I bought actually I bought a whole pallet of microscopes at an auction. There were about 19 microscopes, and I sold most of them, and I kept a few. I kept this one, and I kept a Olympus BH2. I actually kept 2 of those, and then one day somebody offered me a whole bunch of money for them, so I sold those. So anyway, this one certainly came along for free. I certainly made a profit on that entire pallet, and took this one for myself. So that was a pretty good score. I had the base from another microscope, and I had to build my own post for it of the right size. So so that was kind of my doing. I'll show you another a stereo microscope that's much more affordable, and you can find them all over the place used. So we'll take a look at that one next. Okay, this is my other little microscope that I used to use all the time before I got the Wild microscope. This is a Bosch & Lomb, and these are both zoom microscopes. This one zooms on this knob from the top, and this one has a collar here that zooms. So they're very nice. This one zooms from 0.7 to 3. And the other one does something in metric that it isn't equivalent. But these things are very, very inexpensive used. I actually found this one in the trash can at work. It had been broken. The case had been dropped, and there was a big ding. Some of the metal was missing, and it looked very, very rough. So I did what an automotive person would do. I used Bondo to fill in the crack, and then took all the parts off and spray painted it, and it looks good as new. So it's amazing what you can find in the trash can. I had to buy the stand for it. I think I paid $50 for the stand. You can find lots of stands. I like this one because it's so small. The whole thing is very, very compact. And it fits in the drawer. So anyway, that's the other option. There's always some debate on which eyepieces you should use. The Bosch & Lomb eyepieces I don't think are very good. So I bought these, which I don't think you can really see very good. But these are Olympus eyepieces. They're marked WF10X, so WF stands for wide field, and 10X is the power. and so I found these to be very, very, very nice eyepieces. This microscope I had to find some eyepieces for, and these are a little bit more unusual eyepieces. They're very large in diameter, so I found these on eBay, and these are WF10X also, /20, and they're a large, like I said, a large diameter, whereas these other ones are a smaller diameter. So you have to figure out which diameter is right for your microscope and go from there. But anyway, those are the microscopes. There are some Chinese microscopes available, new, in a pretty good price range. I've never owned one, so I don't know how good the optics are. But these things have been around, these Bosch and Lombs have been around for forever. So I would probably recommend picking up one of these, although I'm sure the other ones are probably fine. Optics has gotten a lot better since computer-aided design helps design these things better than the old days. I heard the oven beep, so things should be ready over there. So the parts out of the oven, we'll let it cool down. I forgot to mention, you should probably have a light source on your microscope. So I have a ring light that I actually designed myself. You can buy ring lights on eBay, and they're actual, I think they call them angel eye lights for BMWs. They have these ring lights, I think, that are for automotive use, and you can get them pretty cheap. And so I bought one of those and then made a part on my lathe to fit the microscope. So that's the way that that I was able to do my own ring light. All right, let's take a look, see how it turned out. Okay, looks pretty nice. At least that part looks nice. Capacitors look great. Yeah, I think it turned out good. I'll take a look under my good microscope. I can zoom in a lot and take a look, see if there's any solder bridges or anything, but in general that looks like a successful soldering. I recommend you get one of these. It's a, oh, what are these things called? Panavice. And this one has a long vice head to hold PC boards, long PC boards. But what we're going to do is we're going to hold our little header here. So you can zoom in a bit on that. Let's see here. Oops. Okay. And then we can put our board here and go ahead and solder, if I can get this thing to focus. There we go. So it's holding the little header, and let me get some solder. Hold this one in place, let it dry, let it cool. Alright, now we can go back and solder everything. I'm going to band-aid on my finger because I cut myself slicing up a watermelon. Nothing to do with high tech, it's always the low tech stuff. There we go. So, solder's in place. I think what we need to do is put a socket on the other part of the board. Still not focusing. There we go. I'll put a socket here, I'll put a header on it, put a display on it, and we should be ready to go. Pop this in place. I have a magnifier, which lets me see what's going on, and that's probably not in focus. Let's see if we can get you in focus. Here we go. That looks good. All right. There we go. So now I need a connector there and a header, and we are ready to go. There we go. We have everything on there that we need. And let's go try it out.